Welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel, and that is the R in the RK Stumblingbear, and I'm a reader and a writer. And I'm back to do my June wrap-up. So this month I participated in the Amazing WIC Readathon, so that is a lot of what you're going to see my books towards theme-wise, but not all of them. The first book I finished in the month of June was The Brides of High Hill by Nevo. This was nominated for the Hugo Awards this year, and it is the most current in the Singing Hills cycle. It's a novella series that she writes where we follow Cleric Chi. And Cleric Chi is a monk who goes out and collects stories and experiences. And in this one, Cleric Chi is with a young woman who is going to be a bride to a older man. And at the beginning, I totally got the vibes of the fairy tale Bluebeard. And then Nevo managed to make a nice little twist to it. Something that I did not see coming, but once it came, I was like, oh, all the signs are there. So Nevo is always a very good atmospheric writer, very intentional with the details that she puts in, and this is the same. I'm looking forward to the next installment that comes out later this year for this Singing Cycles. I then finished Finley Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano, and I used this for the Amazing Race prompt of a killing word in the title. The place that this got me to was Basquiat from The Fourth Wing. Now, if you also participated in the Amazing Race, you know that this was not the first prompt, and that's fine because I dual read. I submitted an order. It's fine. It's fine. But I finished this before I finished the other one, and I absolutely love this. I'm not much for a contemporary story, and this is a murder mystery that everyone that I know has been raving about. I have coworkers who recommended it to me, and how I got a copy is actually my mom read it for her book club, and then she gave it to me. She goes, here, you should read this. I was like, okay, I'll read it. And from the beginning, I just love the snark that we have with Finley and the very real situation she finds herself in. I hear that a lot of people get into this familia situation. It also helped that I was reading this at a time when I was really angry about some circumstances that had happened in my life, which were outside of my control. And so the ex-husband kind of became, in my head, the people I was pissed at. And oh, it was just delightful to be pissed at him. Yeah. And the way this ends, I love Vero, I love Finley. They're great characters. And I want to read more, so I will be continuing this series. All right, so then I finished The Oleander Sword by Tasha Suri. This was for my green cover prompt, which got me to the Emerald City, which I didn't have to travel very far. I live in Kansas. This is the second in the Burning Lotus series, where we are finding Priya and Malini. Priya is a priestess of Yexa. They're kind of like demons with a hook into nature. And Malini is a princess who is trying to get her brother off the throne because he is a vindictive little shit. And she doesn't agree with how he is running things. It's very, very different from her father, how he did things. So she's like, yeah. She's not the one who decided to have him removed. Everybody else wanted the oldest brother who had gone into a priesthood to take on the mantle, and instead ended up it's her. So a lot of this book is around fighting and war and the Yexa coming back to Priya's home country. But Priya is actually away helping Malini right now. Again, it's a lot of war, so you have to be okay with war and war tactics. Something I think that Tasha Suri does is she's very good about ending the book. So this book has an ending, but you do know that another one is coming. But she doesn't cliffhanger you, which I appreciate so much. I really don't like cliffhangers in my fiction. I think they're overused and they get associated a lot with YA categories. I then finished Ocean's Gadori by Elaine Yu Cho, and this is a space opera where Ocean is a pilot on a merchant ship. She once had been a pilot and was like fast-tracked for like a bigger military vessel, but some things in the past happened and this is what she can get now. Her and her crew are following their captain, who's kind of shady. Okay, not kind of, she's very shady. And she's very manipulative emotionally and otherwise. She's doing questionable things, and when the crew question her, she basically acts like a bulldog. How dare you question me, kind of thing. We have 3 perspectives actually in this. The second perspective we have here is Haven, who his people worship vultures, and they are kind of like the death priests of the universe, galaxy, and he has joined the crew as a doctor because his dad wanted him to get alliance experience. So he has a very different upbringing, very rigid, and starts to kind of be attracted to Ocean, who I would not say is the warmest personality, so it's kind of interesting. And then our third perspective is Tio, who is a second son to a rich family that's like the head family that deals with technology. And he is on a different ship than the rest of them. It gets attacked, and people kill everyone else on that ship except for him. He ends up escaping, and ends up that somebody, they really tried to kill him because they wanted to take his place and then make him out to be a villain. Instead of going home when he escaped, he keyed in the code to Ocean's ship because him and Ocean are friends. And what happened in Ocean's past dealt with Tio. More details in here. You do get the answer to this one in here. And so now Tio is on the run. They're trying to figure out who's trying to kill him. Ocean and the crew are trying to help him. And then in pops a pirate ship and a pirate crew. So you get more fun characters. They find out some information on one of their stops, and then they're heading towards another area. They get attacked by the group that's trying to kill Tio, and then the book ends. And I was like, wait, what? Not even like a cliffhanger. It just, like, there's I think one snarky line, and then the book is done. And I'm like, wait a second. I feel like I only have half a book here. It's well written. I'm enjoying the characters, but I really want the rest of the book because nothing was resolved in this. As I was saying with the previous one, I don't like cliffhangers. And so this was kind of an interesting style. The second book, or the second part of this book, is coming out in August of this year, I believe, and you better bet you that I want to read it because in this book we're set up for everything. I want the payoff. So despite that one thing of I only feel like I have half a book, I did enjoy everything else with this. So I would say pick this up, but wait till the second book is out so you can just binge it all the way through. And I forgot to say, this book fit the amazing readathon prompt of over-the-top cover. I think you would agree with me. And it got me to Panam from The Hunger Games. All right, so then I finished Eat by Jessie Brown, which was my last semi-finalist for the self-published science fiction contest. And this is a sci-fi horror, which is not typically my thing. I'm really very, very new into the horror genre, and I'm not a huge fan of snakes. It has a snake on the cover, so this is not something I would have gravitated to picking up on my own, but was an amazing read. I really enjoyed it. I think Brown knows her horror beats for a horror story very, very well, and gives you amazing characters. So since you can't guarantee that anybody is safe in a horror book, I was sitting on the edge of my seat, nervous that one of my favorite characters was going to die with everything that's happening. And you're following Katie and John and Kai as they meet other people in London. There's been this serum has gotten out that is supposed to be a cure-all for the ills of people, and does that by pairing DNA with animals, which then thus turns a lot of these people kind of into animals, at least the ones who survive the virus. Everybody else dies. Now those who have survived the virus, they are fighting one another. All the animals are different types of predators, so we have that going on. I then finished The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. This worked for my cozy prompt and got me to the Shire with the amazing readathon. In this magical contemporary setting, witches are not supposed to interact with each other very much. And our main character, Micah, she's a witch, but she started a witchy YouTube channel. But she thinks she's done it in such a way to not be found out for real. And instead, she gets an offer or a request to come teach 3 other little witches who are living together how to be witches and how to control their powers. And she ends up accepting because she kind of finds this intriguing. This has some very sweet, heartfelt moments, but you get a lot of complicated people in this, while you have characters that you absolutely love. And I think there's a nice conversation between what is nice and what is kind. And yeah, I would prefer someone who's kind rather than nice by the definition of this. There is a small little romance going on. Overall, I just really, really enjoyed this. Definitely cozy, and I'm looking forward to the next one she has coming out set in this universe. I then finished Challenger by Adam Higginbotham. This was an audio read for me. I've been listening to it over the past couple months. And this is about the Challenger shuttle that exploded. And everyone who helped build the shuttles and the rockets and the people who ended up dying. Higginbotham has done amazing research. Space history, NASA is a subject area I've been researching for years. And so I know that he has done his research just because of different sources and different information. It all tracks with what's out there. But I like that he really went into the depth. Like, you get to hear what the original idea of the shuttle was and then how it had to be tweaked, and just the different issues and problems that it had throughout just becoming the shuttle, and then problems and issues while it was flying that the astronauts themselves weren't aware of, but other people were, and they considered it an acceptable risk. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the pride cycle. People are full of pride. A tragedy happens, they get humbled and start working from really good intentions, and then get prideful again. And basically, Higginbotham says, after laying everything out that happened with Challenger, that the pride came back, and that's why the Columbia explosion happened as well, is because none of the issues were actually fixed. And he points that the issues were management, not those on the bottom level. I like that he also lets you get to know the people who flew on Challenger. You get to meet the engineers at Thiokol Morton, which were responsible for the rockets, who had let NASA know that there was an issue with the O-rings in cold weather. They had said don't fly it if the shuttle's been sitting out under 50 degrees, which, since it's flying out of Florida, that's not a very common occurrence. But apparently 2 years in the early 80s, it did. It got very, very cold. And the second time it happened, or second year, they actually went to NASA and said, do not fly, postpone Challenger. And it was their own managers who said, no, we're going to make a management decision and we're going to say go for it. And so all of that, one of the engineers make sure was documented really well. And when the investigations into it came out, him and some other people like, no, we're not okay with it, what happened. And they told the truth. Yeah, really kind of amazing. Also amazing to see how the company then tried to punish them all and had to be told, you can't do that just because they told the truth. You can't punish them for it. And that their respective communities, some were embraced and, you know, helped through it, and others were treated as a pariah. And I thought that was very interesting. And I do remember being like halfway through Challenger, I was like, I kind of wonder if there's been a similar book written about Columbia. I'd be fascinated. And he did, like I said, just a little bit at the end talk about Columbia. But I would like to know more about that process of what happened. I then finished Ymir by Rich Larson. I used this for a chilly cover and winter setting, which for the amazing readathon got me to The Wall. This is a cyberpunk book set in a different world where it's always winter on the surface, and we have miners in this society, and the company has come through, kind of taken over things. So you have your oppressive business group, and there had been a failed rebellion, and Yorick, our main character, had been on the side of the company. Even though he had grown up in this area, because he was a half-blood, he was always persecuted. And for him, he went, that's nice, I'm going to go join the company so I can get off the planet. And he was also obsessed with this idea because something his little brother had said when they were little kids about leaving and venturing up into the stars. He latched onto that idea and went with it without ever having further conversations with his brother, which comes out later in the narrative, because ends up his brother learned, even though he was also a half-blood, learned to love the people and met people who weren't assholes and weren't always, you know, persecuting him. So they've had very different experiences. Yorick has been brought back and his mind has been poisoned. Let's say that, whether it was self-delusions or the company, it kind of seems it was a little bit of both, but he thinks his brother tried to kill him, and he thinks his brother missed and cut off like the front of his mandible, so he has a prosthetic mandible so he can talk and eat normal. Like I said, it's very much cyberpunk in that aspect. He takes a lot of drugs and consumes alcohol, and the company has brought him there to fight what they call a Grendel, which has made a lot of people go, hey, is this kind of like a Beowulf story? And not really. There's like, you know, some terminology maybe, but not really. And so a Grendel is like a machine entity, AI entity that has learned over the years from the previous settlers, had issues and wiped them out according to local knowledge and lore. And Yorick's brother Thello has always been able to communicate with the Grendels, and that comes into play. I would not say that this is a happy story, but it is very interesting. I did find myself compelled to keep reading, to wanting to know what was going to happen next. And there is a lot of violence. So anything you know about the cyberpunk genre is basically it, except there's no sexual abuse. That's what I'm trying to say. Then the last book I finished in the month of June is On Impulse by Heather Texley. And this is one of the finalists for the self-published and science fiction contest, Space Opera, where we are following Reliance Sinclair. As an adventure story, it was a romp. I enjoyed it pretty well. I wanted to strangle Reliance as a character. I guess she's supposed to not trust anyone because her partner turned on her in the past. But just that one issue of somebody turning on you, just in your job, it didn't seem enough for her to go total, I trust no one sort of thing. And then you get to see where she does trust a couple people. But she asked one of her best friends, Jarrett, to look into something for her, and he is killed. And she finds his body, and while she's looking over everything, the local cops show up and she runs. And then she just keeps running and running and running. I do think Heather is very good with conflicts that are coming up for the character. Like the character's trying to do something, and here's a conflict or obstacle in her path and how she's going to do it. Reliance, however, so her two responses seem to be con woman, kind of criminal, where she's going to use disguises to try to not be seen, or to kind of attack a problem directly, brute force it. And neither of those made sense with a law enforcement background, even with her slight years of undercover work. I just didn't find Reliance a credible character at all. I enjoyed the plot and the story of what's going on, but her as a character, I did not buy. Which, I don't know if I want to read more of this, because some of the side characters are interesting, but if Reliance is going to behave like this, I'm not sure how enjoyable that's going to be for me. So if you like space opera adventure stories, I would still say try it, because you might have a different response to Reliance. But just for me, it seemed like she was still stuck in stupid teenage stage mentally. So for the things that I am still reading The Lies of Lacamora by Scott Lynch. I have, however, submitted this for the large city prompt, so it got me to Ketterdam. I'm more than 50% in, so I get to record it. And I am enjoying this. I'll talk more about it in July. I barely started The Faithless, which was going to be my God Celestial prompt. I think I'm only 100 pages in, so unfortunately I don't get to count it for Camp Half-Blood. And I am about 40 pages into Kazuna by Jamie Watt. The whole title of this is actually Kazuna, or How to Lose a Spaceship and Still Go Places. This was a past entry into the self-published science fiction contest that I really was intrigued by and wanted to read it myself. And I had picked this up to be another one for the Amazing Readathon, but not far enough in to count it either. So that is what I finished and what I'm still reading. How was your reading month in June? Did you participate in a readathon? I'd love to know. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you and have a great day.